since I last since you positioned TODAQ head to head with Coinbase's x402, which is a $10 billion ecosystem in AI to AI transactions. Walk us through how TAPP's API Paywall is winning these deals 100% of the time, and what makes your approach different.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the open standard that Coinbase created with x402 is great. It does provide a method for blockchain kind of technologies
Mm,
to do these what we'll call internet native or web native payments.
mm,
And put really simply, you get rid of the need for a payment processor. The payment itself gets inserted into the request between the system that's asking and the system that's going to fulfill. Like putting a coin in a vending machine and then hitting the button and saying, yeah, I get my can of Coke, and off you go.
yeah.
And that moves everything to real time. It wipes out most of the cost. And it creates a perfect interoperable usage-based payment.
Mm,
So this is one of the few of the reasons why we really care about that. And I think it's also important to start with why, in that all of our existing payment technology and payment rails, they were all built for human transactions and human payments.
mm,
But now we've moved into this agentic AI world of machine to machine interactions. And all of our old payment infrastructure was not designed for these kind of real time microtransactions that are occurring.
mm.
And you have AI agents that are owned by different companies, by different entities. And so now you have this different form of digital trade that's happening orders of magnitude faster and higher volume than what we're used to.
Yeah.
So the old rails just don't work. They don't work in terms of how fast they are, how expensive or inefficient they are, and a whole host of other reasons. That's why this was important.
Yeah.
I think Coinbase made a great move with X402.
Mm,
That ecosystem has built up really nicely. I would note that out of that $10 billion volume that they report,
mm,
very, very little of it is actually what I'd call true commerce or trade,
mm.
where whether it's digital goods and services or whatever else, there's a commercial thing going on
Yeah.
versus these are payments that are being made because there's an investment purpose or a speculation purpose or something else.
Yes.
So you got to look at that $10 billion
Yeah.
dollar figure and parse it quite carefully. And that is the main reason why, we've just started out. So just to set the context, we spent years building. We spent a lot of time last year and the year before getting a first micropayment product on top of all of that underlying infrastructure we created. We found our way into the sector of video streaming as the first place that we were going to put this in place with our own internet native payment solution that doesn't function on blockchains or any of the Coinbase technology.
Yeah.
It doesn't rely on any of the old payment rails. This is net new and entirely new web infrastructure, a new layer of the World Wide Web. And the reason why we've been getting AI companies and other customers coming to us is that it's actually solving business problems.
Yeah.
So it's one thing to say, I have a system that wants to pay and another one that wants to receive, and they're going to use a particular blockchain it's routed through and a particular token. And even if the speed and the efficiency of that one hop
Mm,
works, business owners have other problems too. The thing needs to be scalable. It needs to plug into everything else they're doing.
yeah.
How's it going to fit into their accounting and sales systems?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. They received a payment. They have supply chain payments to make. Can they easily extend that first payment, split it up, and then pay their supply chain in real time too?
Mm. In a fair and
How
cost.
do they get back to the bank? How many hops is that? So all of these practical business questions that come as soon as you show up with something new that
Mm,
could work really well is you have to have those five other answers as well.
mm,
So one of the things we found is the reason we're winning is that the capability itself functions better than the X402 standard,
mm.
but it also solves those other problems to make it easy for the customer.
Yeah. No, it's very impressive. I mean, I remember we touched on, is there even any competitors last time? And because of how deep your tech stack is, as soon as one's coming to the mix, you find you're winning all the deals. So that's awesome. And I think we're going to see more and more of those PRs come to light as well. And then on all your different products, I mean, Tap, the sort of paywall, the business, the banking gateway, and the wallet, and now Veeeu with movies. For those who missed, the previous interviews, just maybe a one-line sentence for what each one of those does.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the easy way to think about why are you guys building so many products
Mm,
is just think back to what I said in the previous question. You have to solve business problems.
yeah.
So the core product of what we do is we provide internet native payments embedded within the workflows of the customers, primarily for AIs and creators in the video streaming industry as the first place we go to market.
Mm, mm.
And that allows both sides in a couple of steps to just bolt on and they're ready to go and they
Yeah,
can go make payments. So that part is great. But the reason why we built all those other products is, well, just like the question, all right, I'm getting paid. How do I get back to the bank? All right, we built a banking gateway. Then the next one is for both AIs that provide AI services for producing videos, publishing them, marketing, distributing them, creators that could use those particular services. Both sides see the advantage in these pay-per-use use cases.
Yeah.
But there's always a risk because for the AI services, their go-to-market is based on subscription, right? Or aggregated credit-based buy and sell in some sort of internal scheme. So they might find it very attractive, but it comes with some risk because they're like, hey, I need to sell. How am I going to go find this new market of creators? Or the creators like, how am I going to conveniently find the AI services we need? So then in addition to the bank gateway, we also built a from the ground up pay-per-view streaming platform and AI creator marketplace.
Yeah.
So that was literally there to become a first go-to-market wedge to make it easy for both sides of the market to meet.
Yeah.
So every single other product, in addition to the core API paywall for internet native payments, was designed to solve a secondary problem that the business owner would want. And so when we had that array of supporting products or services around the central thing, at that point for the customer, it becomes much easier because you first see something and you're like, does it work? Hey, that's great. We'd like to do it. And then they're like, but what about, but what about, but what about, but what about? And that's what all those other products are for. It just solves it all. And they're like, there's no reason to say no and a lot of reasons to say yes.
Exactly, and I can imagine it reduces margins, and there's less tech stacks and stuff you need to ever need to sort of outsource. You've got it all there, and as you say, it's all connected to the core API paywall. So yeah,
it's very true. And I would note that that wasn't our original plan to build all of those.
Yeah,
the sensible thing as a startup would be build your one thing, and for any things that you don't do, find a partner and just go integrate that and do it. Well, the challenge in this case is because this was all built on a new web infrastructure, not databases, not blockchains, but file-based assets. The technology does two things. It flips control away from the platform and puts it in the hand of the bearer, and it wipes out costs to such a degree that transaction fees disappear.
Yeah.
So the problem was we first went to potential partners to say, can you provide a video streaming distribution channel and market for the AIs and creators to meet? Or could we hook up into your banking as a service platform so that our customers can get through and integrate with the banks? The problem was the base technology was different. It was removing the revenue source of the potential partners, and it was removing the control and the value of their platforms. So one by one for each of those products, we were forced into building it ourselves, but not our first plan, not our first plan.
No, and I also like what you were saying about moving, control away from the platforms, and then you're kind of fully living that by then. Obviously, it's you guys that have a lot of control, but you're giving it to your users.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And we even touched on last time about the sort of size of transactions. And although we're talking about micropayments, this could be done at a huge scale at a fraction of the cost, which I think a lot of people will also appreciate. Sort of, from mid-size, maybe $5,000 down to, 0 or 1 cent or a 3/10 of a penny. What's the sort of true volume under, say, $1 versus the sort of bigger payments now?
That's a great question. So over this last couple of months, as we've crossed the start line, we've done enough volume to technically validate that everything works commercially. And we've done enough volume to validate the commercial flows and the banking integration. So that a customer can look and say, it works, it can scale, the money can come in from financial institutions, and when I earn, I can put it out to a bank, or I can move it to like a Revolut or Wise or PayPal. Great. So that is the level of volume and transactions we've achieved, which is really to prove the pipes. So that part's done. But out of that, really good question. I mean, I would say 90% of the volume is the true microtransaction, under $1. And the vast majority of that is not human initiated. It is AIs and software systems sending requests with the payment embedded inside to each other. One of the things that we saw with one customer, like we just had with two of our customers, we had quite an uptick in volume just over the last 3 days, right? It went to literally multiple times a minute. These systems are just hitting each other all the time. And we suddenly realized that what it means is that the payment and asset and data volume multiplies by thousands or tens of thousands of times more than what we have in the regular payment world. So to think about it, you have a software company, maybe they have a license or a software as a service deal with someone else.
Mm.
That customer goes and hits their API thousands of times.
Yeah.
And they measure it and they say, yeah, it's 2 cents per call.
Mm.
And they add it all up and they send them a bill at the end of the month and there's a payment. Well, that's all gone. Now what's happening is those tens of thousands of transactions, each of them is now a payment, and that's going live now. So as we have watched it, it's led down some very interesting roads where it's increasing the volume of assets, transactions, and data so much that we recognize that we need to put an agentic AI layer on top of our product because things are moving too fast for the human mind to effectively pull real-time insights to drive decisions out of what's going on.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting.
Very helpful actually, because I hadn't thought so much of these transactions would be, almost totally automated. I mean, immediately the thing that came to mind, and maybe this is something you've already considered, is sort of high frequency, super fast trading. I mean, even stock trading. I mean, I'm not sure that's even something you'd be able to plug into, but maybe there'd be a way to reduce broker fees and also because there's so many transactions being made. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Quite honestly, we have avoided the investment and the investment side of the financial markets.
Yeah.
They're very highly structured, highly regulated. There's high moats, and you really have to know what you're doing and have a lot of the right relationships and compliance and everything else.
Mm.
So it is a market that it changes and it gets disrupted quite a bit. But there's easier markets to get to that are much big, that are just as big or bigger that allow you to roll into it without hitting all these complicated blocks that you have to figure out to say how are you going to disrupt.
Yeah.
So, and then the other point is for high frequency trading,
Mm.
it's happening at an even faster pace. So how we have tuned the product right now is great for what I'd call commercial, industrial, entertainment, like all these other use cases. But if you're going where you're now caring about, nanosecond or, down to the, whatever microsecond sort of thing, we haven't tuned the technology to go transact down at that fast. Right now, we're finding that, look, if the transaction can happen and settle and a second goes by, that's good enough.
Yeah.
But obviously, in the high frequency trading world, a second is a long, long, long time.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that could be, something further down the line, something for people to look forward to, or because you've got these connections with, banks, and you've got that
Could be,
infrastructure. So, maybe down the line. I mean, one question I had there when you were
perhaps.
talking about Revolut and banks, when they're sending to and from money to and from wallets, or vice versa back to them, are they still taking their usual fees, or is the money always going to be kind of the amount that was deposited in the wallet or whatnot?
Yeah, good question. So really this integration we're talking about is the on-ramp of how do funds get into this world, and then the off-ramp of how do you put it back in your accounts.
Yeah.
At that gateway, we do not charge any fees, but we do pass through the fees of a financial institution if they do charge it. And usually it's not very much. With some, there's no charge. With others, like in North America, using the ACH system or using real-time rails, yeah, at most you're paying 50 cents, right? Or 75 cents. So it's not much.
It's not nice.
But yeah, that we see that as more as a pass-through, but we're always trying to find ways to reduce the friction, reduce the time, reduce the number of steps.
Yeah.
So if a customer has said, great, we've been earning a bunch of funds, we've set it up so that they can move funds to whatever account they have anytime they want.
Yeah.
So, if they want to do it daily or multiple times a day, go ahead. If they want to do it once a month, they can do that too. It's up to them.
Yeah, or they just keep, like you say, sort of keep the money longer on the platform and in the wallet, and
Yeah,
they get the benefit
right.
of tiny
right.
fees. Yeah. And then talking more of those sort of institutions, Oracle and this new AssemblyAI partnership, what exactly are they using TAPP for?
So on the side of any AI companies we're dealing with, it's really in step one, it's doing a couple things. One, making their API endpoint web native payment capable. And then second, what we're doing is bringing on both the creator market as well as other software systems that have a demand for that endpoint resource, but their demand is more intermittent, or they're not at the point where they'd want to or lock in to a subscription.
Yeah.
So what that then does for both of those cases is, and we're launching with about 8 or 10, kind of concurrently during this month, is it means you get perfect pay as you go. Oracle project is very interesting. There, we're going to start with data labeling.
Mhm.
And video data labeling for creators is important because
Yes, you mentioned.
that's the foundation of relevant search.
Yeah,
And
and
so typically what happens is if you're a creator, whatever platform you're on will take care of the data labeling in their own fashion.
mm,
So it's not something that as a creator you control or have possession of.
mm, mm,
Whereas this kind of project, what it does is you produce a video, you could tap and pay $1 or $2 or whatever it is, have the thing richly data labeled, and you keep the data labeling, metadata,
yeah,
which means that wherever you put the video up or you have your own web page, you can embed it in the web page. So when the traditional index crawlers or some of the AI searches go by, they're pulling a lot of rich information about your video, which then means if someone searches for it, and we search in the weird way that humans do, it might not be direct.
mm,
Uh, you want to see that movie that had that actor,
mm,
driving a car in a particular city, but
yeah.
You can't remember the name of the movie.
Yeah, it's not going to be in the
Uh,
transcript, is it? Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So that becomes a very simple, extremely scalable, but very, very high value use case.
Mm,
So to start off as, the first steps with all of these, we really want to do things like that.
yeah, amazing. Another one we touched on last time, obviously, Veeeu, it launched kind of in September last year. 90% revenue share for creators and instantly paid out daily, fairly. How many now like creators alive? Maybe the total transaction volume, and then what sectors performing best? Obviously, we're talking about movies here, films, but we touched on sports, education, or is there other things that are coming down the line as well?
Yeah, great question. So when we rolled out the new version of Veeeu, which allowed creators a do-it-yourself publishing and control of everything, that was back in December.
Mhm.
We have the first 60 creators and 60 titles on, with about 200 queuing up and some thousands of titles waiting to onboard.
Yeah,
So with that first wave coming in, we use that to really improve the experience and sort out any rough edges. And now as we get into February, we'll then bring on the next wave, right? So
yeah,
it'll happen in these stages.
yeah,
And we're very happy that we can return that 90% revenue share daily. The thing that allows us to do it is, apart from everything we were talking about, the efficiency before,
mm,
is the fact that Veeeu embeds all financial and business functions into a micro application for a specific video for a creator.
mm,
Usually, what would happen is that if you wanted payments, access authorization, the ability to pay out your supply chain, there's a whole bunch of services you want.
mm.
Usually, a software system will go plug into a bunch of partners. Well, it
Yeah,
needs to get. So now that we have this extreme form of embedded finance, it's all embedded into one micro application.
yeah,
And so because it's embedded, all those costs are gone, which
yeah,
means on the 10% that Veeeu keeps, it's sustainable and it can make
mm,
some money off it. And the creator has a much better bargain.
yeah.
90% daily versus, plus or minus 50% every
Mm.
30 days, perhaps.
Wow. Yeah, huge difference. And I think you said roughly there 200 on the wait list, and you slowly onboarding in batches. I mean, is the first batch maybe 50, and are they all in that same sector?
So the first batch, we've had a lot of indie filmmakers,
Mhm.
and there's been a ton of documentaries, but we've started adding in comedy, action, horror.
Yeah.
There's even some geopolitical and history stuff. So it's quite a mixed bag, and a lot of it is selection that you're not going to find on a lot of the main platforms.
Yeah.
So there's some very interesting, independent, kind of niche content like
Mm.
that. As we go on, you're going to see a spread into all of the genres.
Mm.
So everything from family and kids to educational, action, adventure, comedies, all the typical genres you'd expect.
Yeah.
And there's also going to be a particular section of View that is designed for the user-generated content creators, the
Yeah.
YouTubers. So for content that they want to make premium, which won't be all, it'll typically be a minority of their content, right? You want to keep pushing out a lot of it
Mm.
free, ad supported on YouTube. But very often, they've got specials, behind the scenes stuff, other things to reward their most loyal followers.
Mm.
And all of that is great content to stick on View.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and also this is really highlighting how you're plugging in also into new audiences, and almost kind of like what you were saying there with, some of these films aren't available on other platforms. It sounds like what will happen is, people will want to go see that thing, which is we'll touch on one of those horror ones in a second, and then they're forced to come onto the platform, test it out, and realize it's a heck of a lot better than any other platform. And also those film producers will probably have the same feeling. They'll get, let's say, oh, they had a better experience there. You might then get even bigger titles coming on. Yeah, so so just expanding on that, what does a typical premiere look like? For example, take Jitters. I mean, that's not out yet, but how do you engineer between creators, influencers, and those partners?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we're very excited. We're going to start launching. We did our first couple small ones, but we're going to start. Veeeu supports future premieres,
Mm,
which means a creator can go on, they onboard their movie, but they set a future date.
mm,
And what shows up for the viewer is the countdown. They can see the trailer, enjoy it. They can pre-order.
mm,
And that becomes important because it allows for a marketing campaign. It allows for a virtual premiere that could coincide with a physical theater premiere.
yeah.
Uh, and it means then that the title and the work that everyone did to put into it can be promoted leading up to a premiere event. So we're going to be running about 50 premieres this year, and we're already putting all the first ones in place. And with all of these titles, they all have niche communities of interest. And
Mm,
sometimes those niches are very large, but
mm,
there's always a problem or a challenge of discoverability.
mm,
How does that niche audience find exactly the content that they want? And how do you do it in a way that is different from what a lot of the algorithmic, very, very large platforms do?
mm,
Where sometimes you're starved of choice because a bunch of slop, right, is packed into
mm,
the platform and you endlessly title surf and it can get a little frustrating.
mm,
So there's a number of things I'll highlight two. One of which is having the title owner, if they don't have their own native audience or they want to expand it, matched with creators that do have the following
mm,
that would really gel with and like that content.
mm,
And so there's that matching. And then the other one, because we can make the AI agentic services affordable, convenient, and in the control of the creator, there is an AI side in terms of how those audiences are matched.
mm.
So it is both human and AI in terms of the augmentation to help push that premiere to maximize its reach and get it to the people who would actually enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. I like the idea about collaborating, collaborator matching, maybe producers on films matching as well.
Yeah,
Taking that Jitters horror case as an example and the plug and play, as you said, with plugging into audiences. I believe is it the director's, 400,000 followers, one of the lead actors, 5.6 million. Um, how would you maybe do those campaigns? It's sort of horror influencer campaign based. And what are you learning by
exactly.
these genres? Yeah.
Yeah, so they're a great customer and partner. They have their own very well developed plan. We're very happy and proud on our end to
Mm,
provide any additional support we can to help push that. But it's entirely that because, as an example for the horror genre, there's people who love horrors,
mhm.
people who see it occasionally and want to stay away from it. That's okay. I think most content is like that. But it's very much for a particular title about finding the creator and the associated audience that really dig that kind of story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's doing that matching. So you remember, like everyone is going nuts about Claudebot or Moltbot as it's called now, right?
No.
And super powerful, right? Never, I don't know if you have, but if please don't run it on your own computer with your own accounts and systems. The thing is an absolute security disaster. But that said, it was just a first step. And things like Moltbot were showing what is possible in putting useful AI assistants that will do things in the hands of people, right? So there will be future versions of something that looks like that solve the security and the privacy and all the other issues. But that said, it showed that it was practical for a creator, this whatever, if they looked and said, you know what, I've gone and created something. Who are the top 10, other creators with followers or collaborators that would really dig and help and would be, enthusiastic about pushing that?
Mm,
Now, if you thought about how many hours it would take, do the research, filter it down, prioritize,
mm,
do the outreach, right? Set up the meeting, figure out what that simple deal is. And our tech can really help with making real-time payments for everybody. So if a deal is struck, all sides are happy
mm,
because it's transparent, it's more sure. and everyone's getting paid right away.
Yeah.
But doing that entire set of things would be one, there's a skills issue, right? Which is, as a creator, do you have all those skills and do you need to go learn them? Assuming you know how to do all of it, that's tens and tens of hours. And I'm sure as a creator yourself, what I'm talking about, you've gone through that pain.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And so now imagine getting rid of 90 or 95% of that work and being able to do that matching in a much more efficient way and in a way that where you're in control.
Yeah.
It's not another platform, but you're the one who's steering the ship.
No,
And
that's
that's
really
where the real value is.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Really impressive. And then you can see how. I mean, maybe also touching still on those audiences. Which ones are you finding moving the needle at the moment the most, or is it too early to say? I mean, I can imagine
I
that
think
that lead actor might
it's
post it.
definitely too early. This is a good question, I think, to ask, like literally probably at the end of this year.
Yes, yeah.
So there's actually we can really start to see some patterns and see some trends and get some insight.
Yeah, I can imagine that lead actor is almost certainly going to, post about jitters and it'll say, by Veeeu underneath, and then people will be checking it out. So yeah, and then maybe touching on others, you've got Robbie Maddison's upcoming gig promoted by Chris Hemsworth and Jason Statham, and they're all sort of creator controlled, fan based, celebrity backed. Do these one-off events fit your model? And
Yeah, it's another kind of premiere. Robbie and his family and his entire team are fantastic.
Mm.
We had the privilege and the opportunity to work with them last year on doing a working proof of concept, which is still running, where exactly the same technology is now can be used to power Robbie's fan market, so that Robbie can actually directly issue memberships and deals and loyalty and reward experiences and access to his fans, regardless of which platform it's on. So that was a really good step. They've got some very exciting stuff planned for this year, and we'll be looking to support with Veeeu and with the identity and with the payment side, wherever it's helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lovely. And presumably, live sports and other spectacles are going to be, a core focus coming soon. Obviously, you don't want to do too
Yeah, I
many things
mean,
at once.
right now we are very much video on demand.
Mhm.
Live streaming is a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is make sure that we have the execution and the delivery for all the on-demand content really working well. We will get onto the live side definitively, and we'll start with use cases that are more contained,
Yeah.
right? So if you think of like a big league live streaming, I think it was the first Jake Paul fight,
Yes.
right? And even Netflix with their massive size, right? They improved very quickly
Mm.
and they addressed it. But the first time they went out with it, they fell down.
Yeah.
So live streaming is hard, really
Yes.
hard. So we will get there. But when we do, we're going to start with baby steps and smaller things. It's
Mm.
just really important. We're the whole team. We want to make sure that whatever we do, it works and it works well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, fair point. Yeah, you don't want to. I've seen plenty of boxing fights where you try and watch the live stream because it's on a new platform and it starts stuttering or whatever. You just think, oh, this is
Sure.
wasn't like that.
And
And
I
then
think the key, like on the live side, especially with sports, is again, it'll be focusing on areas where we can really make a difference. And it might look a little niche or a little small, or maybe it's something that doesn't scale, but it's the right place to start,
mm.
right? And really prove it out.
And with these premieres and one-off events, you've said that you'll bring Oracle, Royal Bank of Canada's tech stack, and other AI elements to the mix. What does that look like actually in practice? Is it sort of on the co-marketing using their audiences as well, minimum guarantees?
This is
Um,
something that we are going to learn our way through. There's some places where, for certain partners, we know exactly and precisely what it is that they're going to be doing, which
mm,
is typically everyone brings in a value-added input or service
yeah,
that benefits everyone. It benefits their own brand and their own delivery, but it moves everything ahead. So all these early premieres is going to be a process of discovery
mm,
where we figure out what are the formulas or the boilerplates or the templates that work when someone wants to premiere and they're like, aha, these are how I can bring AI into pushing my premiere. This is how I can bring in creators. This is the place where it makes sense, as an example, for banks or institutions or cloud companies to get involved.
mm,
Because this is entirely a new market. It has not existed before,
yeah,
which means every step you take is a new discovery. And you don't have past templates or things that you can pattern recognition off of.
mm,
and say, well, just do that because it's a new market. So each of these then becomes a trial. And you start it off, it's a real trial. It involves real products, real release, real customers. But it's with just good partners who are like, let's do some worthy experiments and learn from them. And
Yeah.
for any of the things that succeed, then scale those up.
Absolutely. And you've described you've got partners, but you also got disruption. Touching on Netflix and Patreon, you've described yourselves as a direct challenge to them. Obviously with the, giving people more of that rev share and taking away from, algorithmic sort of feels. What's the biggest objection when you've had people coming across from those platforms, and what have you had to really pitch to people, and how have you addressed those?
For creators that would, let's say, typically go and put their stuff on Netflix or some other pay-per-view platform, there's one in that if you're new, you just have to go out and do good work and prove yourself and continue to prove yourself and improve over time. So that's a requirement that doesn't go away. It's obviously very large when you first start out and there's nothing there and you're just trying to get the first creator and maybe the first film or the first video.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's true 0 to 1.
Yeah.
But the question you asked is good because 4 years and 5 years from now, it's still going to be relevant. We're still going to be going through how do we prove
one line,
how do we prove that we've earned this opportunity, that we're worthy of it, and that it's better for the following reasons than something else. There's parts of it that are just very clear, right? In that the streaming market is controlled by platforms, the very large platforms, and they have the control and they have the revenue. So if you show up with something that says you're going to get 2 or 3 times the revenue, it's going to come out daily, and you are going to be in control, there's a certain amount of the market that's like, yeah, we'll take that all day long. And then there's some of those that will really act as champions because they've been trying to get there for many years. They've learned a lot of lessons. They come with network and other solutions that meld very well with ours, and that's who you focus on. So especially in the beginning, I mean, there are people who are going to hang back and they'll have doubts. They'll be like, you're new, you're small, you don't have the same scale as those guys, right? Etc. Those are all good and valid criticisms. My point is just at this point in time, you want to listen to those things, you want to improve them and have them addressed over the medium term or over the long term. But in the beginning, yeah, start running with those who want to run.
Yeah.
And there's enough of them that's at least for us, the right way to do it. And then you're not wasting time with trying to sell, which is not what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We just want to continue to add on and improve the product experience, and run with those who are benefiting from it, and then figure out how to help them even more.
Exactly.
And so how we go out and do what we do is much more of that.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it should be a no-brainer for some people, 2 to 3 times more revenue. But you might have ultra loyalists for some of these platforms, or just so used to the UI on the platform for whatever reason they'll have to learn. But,
there's a lot of inertia with all of us. Even with you and I, if you look at the things that we enjoy or that we consume or sell, once we get locked into a groove, right, it's tough. It's really tough to move and kind of shift out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then still touching on creators, you've mentioned pre-orders and binge passes. Obviously, that's relevant to the films. They're being added into the future, and what are they? And do the creators and film producers still get, with the bundle content and the discount, still keep their 90% revenue share?
Yeah. So given what you said, pre-orders are already out, and it's there on the platform. You can see the first probably 1 or 2 pre-ordered titles. The 90% always applies no matter what. So that's always there. And the things that we're rolling out over this quarter and next quarter that we're super excited about is how can we power up the user-generated content creators and the YouTubers. And that means that right now Veeeu supports single titles, but it will very, very soon support multi-episodic vertical shorts, seasons and series, playlists. So there's that.
Wow.
And then the other part is that I think the stat is that probably 80% or more of the growth in streaming is from the millennials and Gen Z. And obviously Gen Alpha is coming up very soon. And they have, apart from a desire for authenticity and going exactly for what they want, there's budget issues. They're not baby boomers with a ton of cash to throw around. So one of the very powerful things we're bringing in with Veeeu is a pricing feature we call Veeeu Now, which means that we can bring down the price to watch something that from like 5 cents up to maybe a couple of dollars.
Mm,
And on that, the creator can make money because the margins are so huge.
mm,
So the question then is, would you go and rent, let's say, a 90-minute movie for $5 or $6, or would you offer a one-shot view now watch for $1.80?
mm.
If you had a micro episode or a micro drama that was like 10 minutes or 15 minutes, would you offer it up for 20 cents or 25 cents
Mm.
or charge $1? Now, the very cheap price of, $1.80 for a full-length feature or, 20 cents one tap, you can immediately watch it for something shorter, is that it's a different kind of decision making.
Mm.
If you saw something and you knew that you could tap and it was something you enjoyed and you just pay a quarter, you might be like, yeah, sure, I'd do it.
Yeah,
But if the price popped up and it was $3, $4, $5, now you're starting to think, is it really worth it?
yeah,
And then you start scrolling.
yeah. Encourages
So
impulse
that
buying.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, so that is the other feature we're bringing in to really have something that fits well
Mm.
for the next generations that are coming up.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I didn't used to sort of think too much into movies. I'd just pay and watch the whole thing and maybe waste an hour of my life when I was a kid. But now it's like, okay, get to the 10-minute mark or 20-minute mark, and then by then you should know if you actually like something or not. But maybe that's exactly what this would do is you pay just
Yeah,
for those
and
first
this is
20 minutes.
where with episodes and playlists and shows and seasons, there'll be the binge pass.
Mm,
And so with the binge pass, if someone's like, yeah, I want to see that episode, and they buy the binge pass, if they get 5 minutes in and they didn't like it, or maybe they realize they saw it before, that's okay.
mm,
Because the binge pass will allow you to see any other title in
mm.
that playlist or in that season.
Yeah, interesting.
So, and a lot of viewers, right, will consume shows and seasons and series and playlists that way. They will binge.
Mm,
So why not give them, and often what happens is, you sign up for the streaming thing
mm.
and then you binge on it and then you abandon your subscription or
Yeah,
cancel it.
yeah,
It's like,
that's true.
why? Why not just give them exactly what they want? It's like, I have a free weekend. They wanted to see House of Cards or Game of Thrones or this, that, and the other. I don't know, Squid Game.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, here's your binge pass for 2 days. Go nuts.
Yeah, that's a good point because yeah, messing around with all these different other subscriptions is just infuriating, and it takes so much time to do them. And maybe you've got a guest, and you don't want to be seen to be faffing around, so can totally get that. And
Yeah.
this next question is a big one, I think, as well, because obviously we're touching on influencers and creators. We're going to talk. I don't think it just includes them as well. I think it includes ordinary people who maybe have products too. So step by step, go through how someone gets to their tap wallet. It sounds very easy, and then a monetization link in front of their followers or just their friends and family that they want to sell to.
So a tap wallet is pretty easy to create. So if someone is a viewer or a consumer, they might arrive at a video that they want to watch.
Mm,
And when they hit pay, if they don't have tap wallet, they enter their email, hit enter, their
mm,
wallet is created. And then in the next step, they can go fund it from their Stripe or their bank or whatever.
yeah.
So that's pretty easy as a viewer. It's the same thing if you're a creator. And when a creator joins Veeeu in the Veeeu studio in the backend,
Mm,
when they register, it's just again just an email. Their own tap wallet is immediately created,
mm,
much in the same way. And every single time they load a title, they can publish a title in 5-10 minutes, the same as you do in YouTube, except they control pricing, the payouts, the content, all of it.
mm,
So even when it gets to something like payouts, let's say they had 10 cast and crew and people who helped them, and they knew what revenue share each should get, they just enter in the 10 emails and the proportion and they hit a button and it's done.
mm.
So now those 10 people have top wallets too.
Right.
And
Automatically
now let's
created.
say as a viewer, you had a top wallet and you went and bought a binge pass, 2-day binge pass. But it turned out on day one, you've done all your binging and you got to go work. You have
Mm,
stuff to do. There's
mm.
still a day left in that binge pass. You could transfer that unique pass to someone else, like me, for example, and you just send it to my email.
Right.
So from
Wow.
your wallet, you just type in the email and you hit send. Whether I have a tap wallet or not doesn't matter. The
Okay.
second you do that, I will get the pass. I will have a tap wallet. I can go enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it
So
shows the fairness of
the
it all.
ways
Yeah.
that there's a lot of ways that tap wallets can get created, and in all of those, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, well, I think you had mentioned the time before about just simply sending to an email that creates them, but I really like the fairness element you've shown there, and you're really trying to cut costs for people. But then if you pay for something, you should be able to use it for that length of time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Do you remember with parking? Well, we
yeah,
used to have coin parking, and then what they did is things started to get a little more digital.
mm,
And you would go and there'd be a machine in the parking lot, and you put money in, and they'd give you a 2-hour pass, and you'd go stick it on your windshield.
yeah. And there's so much
And you'd go
time
off into your
wasted.
business, and you'd come back in an hour, And as you're pulling out, another car was coming in. And
Mm.
this was just common between people who don't know each other. It
Mm.
was like, hey, I got an hour on my pass. Thanks, man. And they go park.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so the parking governance authorities got wind
Yeah.
of this, and they're like, oh no 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 no, we gotta shut this down. You can't have people, sharing what they paid for.
Exactly.
Uh,
It's ridiculous. They're
that's
trying to steal back from people.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
That'll create chaos. So then they're like, okay, it's going to get specifically tied to your license plate so that we can track you,
mm.
and it means now you can't share the thing you bought.
Yeah. And if you overpay,
And
we're
then
just going
they
to
can
steal
they
that
can
money from
earn
you.
more revenue. So you bought 2 hours of time, but it's only for you. It's completely stupid.
Mm.
I mean, I
Actually,
understand why it's being done. It
mm.
is it is smart, but just because it's smart in that way doesn't mean that that is the right way to treat your customers.
Yeah, it's not moral. It's actually theft in a way. So yeah. And going back to jitters and those monetization links, when you touched on pre-orders as well. Do people earn? Do the influencer or the people who are on the show? Do they get paid out at the pre-order level? Or do they have to wait until the title goes live?
Whomever was assigned as a payee in the payout scheme by the video rights holder or by the creator,
Mm.
as soon as funds come in, as long as that video is made at least, I don't know, it's a small amount, plus or minus $5, it
Yeah,
will make the distribution.
yeah, yeah. No, good.
And so one of the things we do on the pre-order side for now is it has to be a video or a movie that's already public. It's being created, it exists, and
Yes.
they've onboarded it into the system. Because especially now, we don't want to go through the risk or liability where someone, for all good intentions, they're like, I'm trying to do pre-orders and I'm going to use pre-orders to make the thing I want to show you,
Mm.
right? So then a whole bunch of people pre-order for 3 months and the whole thing falls through and there's no movie or video at the end of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So with this pre-order, we're pretty strict about it. The pre-order cannot happen unless there actually is, the movie with the trailer and the preview and it's all there. It
Yes.
just means during the pre-order time, you can't actually access the movie, and then it'll automatically come up at the preview time, at the
Yes.
premiere time.
Yeah, yeah. And with that monetized link, does it need to be on Veeeu or say if there were other ways people were trying to reach the content? Are there still ways to track that traffic? Sounds a bit immoral what those people would be doing, but yeah, is there anything around
Right,
there?
right now, anything that's put onto View is only viewable on View.com.
Yeah.
We will be introducing features in the future that allows a creator to make that same view experience appear on their own website, as an
Mm.
example. So we're going to release that capability too,
Mm.
that they can do that. Generally speaking, we want to make sure that everyone's privacy and security is addressed,
Yeah.
but everyone should control their own data. So if it's a creator, they should have the analytics data of how many transactions and who's seen the movie and kind of all those things so they can understand how their story is performing,
Yeah.
right? And then make decisions from that. In the same way that someone who has a TAPP wallet, like if you have TAPP wallet
Mm.
and you're paying, where is that consumer transaction data? Well, it turns out it's in your wallet and you control it.
Yeah. I love the privacy side of it because I think privacy, especially in the modern world today, people are realizing that's actually where, good businesses are, good investment goes, because they know people are being respectful and moral to their customers. And I think that's what the sort of last 5, 10 minutes has been. So really, really good. And you can see why there should be a good uptick in pickup. But yeah. Um, and then on those titles, I mean, obviously we're focusing on film and video. Um, so we're leaning there first, it sounds like. Is it then horror you're leaning into first? And then obviously we've touched on sports and stuff that are probably a little bit further down the line, but yeah.
I'm not, so I expect, by the time we close out this year,
Mm.
the, 80% of the content will be user generated created content, like
Yeah.
YouTube content. There'll probably be 15% or so that is what I will call the indie movie, documentary, single title.
Short
And
films, yeah.
yeah, and then there'll be a small percent that are extremely impactful that are these premieres and
Yeah.
pre-orders and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Where we put kind of like, that's roughly what we're going to end up with. In the beginning, it's solving less about genre and it's more solving for people.
Exactly, yeah. It might just be by coincidence that ends up being the
Correct.
horror
And
community,
and
the ones that
so
really
just
push
because
reviews,
we
yeah.
might have a particular focus, View does not censor, it does not turn people away.
Mm.
And if someone shows up and they're got some strange genre that they're putting on, we'll support them just as much as we support everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. No, lovely. Um, when I pitch you guys, often I mean, maybe it's slightly incorrect. It's a more scalable blockchain-like, but not micropayments. And compared to XRP, but obviously you've said that that's not really the case in the past. No one coming close to cost and speed. Is that fair, or is it apples and oranges?
Yeah, it's definitely with us. It's our apples to the blockchain orange. It
Mm,
just isn't, right?
yeah,
It's the third thing, right?
yeah.
And it's not that. Does it use software? Does it use data structures? Does it use cryptography and all those basic building blocks? Absolutely, right? Just like anything else. But yeah, it's definitely a third thing. And the clearest proof in the pudding is if I look at the use cases that we're doing now. A consumer goes and rents a movie. The movie is hosted on a platform with a creator where you've also then got real-time internet native payments going to cast crew, to other AIs, and the whole thing is up and working. It's commercial.
Mm,
There's sale of value-added digital goods and services and consumption. There's zero speculation.
mm,
And the whole thing operates with a particular set of performance measures.
mm,
And in a dozen years, I have yet to see anything even come close on the blockchain side.
mm. If you were to compare anything to say something like an XRP, which has picked up even more so since we last spoke, um, how does the sort of architecture differ behind the scenes? I mean, it seems like massive differences, and
Yeah.
where do you win
So
on
there,
the,
there
the,
there's
the
the architecture difference, but we have competitors
Mhm,
and we will have very serious competitors,
mhm.
but it's not the blockchains.
Yes,
That's not who keeps us up at night.
yeah,
So if you think about the major cloud and AI companies, as we roll this out, as we open source the technology,
mm,
others will figure it out very, very quickly, and then they will show up too. And that's where, the true competition comes from. And as we're going out to market within video streaming, there are streaming solutions and others that are doing, worthy projects, all of us going in the same direction.
mm,
So sometimes with some of them, we will hear from our customers, well, how do you compare to, this or that?
yeah,
So if I think about our creator customers and our AI customers,
mm,
the number of times that any one of them bring up blockchain or crypto is exactly zero.
mm,
It's not relevant.
yeah, yeah,
And there's a reason for this. Take a look at the annual reports and the Q&A from AWS, Azure, Google. Read the thing
mm,
and see how many times do these massive companies mention blockchain.
mm,
And I'm willing to bet it's close to zero.
yeah, and then working with
which
those
is which is
partners. Yeah,
basically telling you that that technology, while it's found massive sources of value and it's found its own use cases, it has failed to hit prime time when it comes to major commerce.
mm, yeah. And yeah, working with those institutions, CIBC, RBC, Oracle, Google, and we were touching on the privacy element earlier. I mean, how do you still, keep that privacy element and be decentralized, privacy and decentralization with those entities? Have you had to sacrifice at all, do you think, in any of those areas?
No, and we won't.
Yeah.
What it basically comes down to is the nice part about this technology is that the level of scrutiny can be dialed up or down depending on where you are in the transaction chain.
Yeah.
So, as an example, if you are paying for a video, you can pay for that privately. So, even the creator doesn't know who you are. They
Mm,
just got paid and they serve the video, and it's like, great.
mm,
So, completely private. These are small consumer commercial payments. Why should that kind of data flow to whomever? It's nobody's
mm,
business. If you want to share it, because, let's say an AI system or someone shows up and says, Hector, we'll give you $10 if you share your transaction data. And you're like, you know what? Then good on you. Go do it.
mm,
However, if you have a business that has now collected, thousands or tens of thousands or millions of these microtransactions, and now they're holding a significant set of funds, and then they're going to the bank gateway and saying, I would like to wire this to my commercial bank account. The bank quite rightly might say, we have questions. Who
mm,
are you as a counterparty? We need to know the KYC. What's your business? And what are these funds? At which point in time, that kind of compliance scrutiny can be applied at that point in time.
mm. Yeah.
So it is designed so that it can work inside the world of commerce. We've had an unfortunate trend where you get the same level of surveillance and governance on all things, which is
Yeah.
not needed.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, have you had any movement from government bodies like FinCEN or the FCA in that area?
No, because we basically run entirely middle of the road
Yeah.
and take zero risk when it comes to regulation.
Mhm.
So even the payment means where we use a US dollar denominated regulated asset,
Mhm.
all of the uses fall squarely within existing law and existing
Mhm.
regulations, and it just works.
Yeah.
So then at that point, we're not needing to experiment, and our customers are not needing to experiment or wonder what is the status of something, or
Yeah.
what's the tax treatment, or what do I need to report, or anything else. It just fits within how the market works today.
Yeah, and people are funding a wallet. They're not funding each individual transaction themselves. So I can see how, yeah, it's more seen as a deposit maybe from the regulatory side. Breaking down more on business model and revenue and capital, what like percentage of revenue comes from the Veeeu film side at the moment? Sounds like a bigger portion. But then also licensing out your tech stack, and then finally the TODA Note royalties or other sources like that 3D have.
I would say in this early stages, it's roughly an even mix between what's going on the cloud and AI to AI side
Mhm.
and what's happening in the B2B to C, sort of view end of things.
Mhm.
It is way too early to tell how that is going to evolve. There's
Mm.
certain things I do know or do feel more confident about. The AI to AI side of the revenue stack is going to grow very quickly.
Yeah, yeah,
And I think that on the view side, it is going to grow quickly, but it is going to look more lumpy or volatile
yeah.
because as you're growing, you need to get to a certain critical mass. And there's certain events like premieres or, there's a particular title or a particular creator, and they go launch on something and you have virality that then comes into play.
Mm.
So there we don't bet on, trying to get one viral star or whatever.
Mm.
We're
Carries
we're
itself.
there to provide an amazing product experience and a ton of value to everybody.
Mm.
And we just focus on continuing to just grind out a massive number of base hits. And yeah, virality will emerge out of that.
Yeah,
But it's not our like we don't pin hopes and dreams on betting on a viral moment happening at a particular time.
yeah,
We're much more focused on making sure the platform's built out right and on the ground game.
yeah. Good answer. Then going on back onto sort of transaction size and margins of those over $1, what's your, or maybe in the sort of mid, four-figure range, and then those under $1, what's your like percentage margins, and what scale do you become very meaningfully profitable in those two sort of sides?
Yeah, great question. So with the internet native payments for APIs and AIs, our contribution margin is over 95%. It's
Mm.
ridiculous. And that holds true whether a penny's being transacted or a dollar or more. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter.
Yeah,
The compute and the variable cost on each is just it's so small that we don't care.
yeah,
And our fixed costs do not rise linearly. It's more logarithmic with scale.
yeah.
So that is the internet native payment side. On the Veeeu end, our contribution margin is more like 50%. And the reason for that is half of our cost is actually paying the external streaming pipes. So
Mm.
to deliver a video to your device after you've ordered it at the right resolution.
Mm.
If you ignored that external, and that's our one external cost,
Mm.
right? The rest is all packed in this crazy embedded finance micro application.
Yeah.
So if you ignored that, Veeeu would have exactly the same contribution margin as everything else.
Mhm.
It's just because we've got this externality. We're doing a number of things to start to compress those costs down
Mhm.
over the next 1, 2, 3 years. So we're not satisfied with where it's at, which means we can still go even crazily lower than that. But that's roughly where we sit in terms of margins. We don't need to grow very much in order to see profitability.
Lovely. Yeah, good to hear. I mean, you have done a sort of a brief raise here, sort of 5 million raise, and got in front of sort of 130 CEOs at VC firms. What's the pitch, and what is the capital going to be deployed for?
Yeah, so we're kicking off a couple of raises now that we've entered this quarter, and I think you mentioned one of them.
Mhm.
In one line, internet native payments for AIs and creators in video streaming.
Yeah.
And that, combined with everything else we've talked about, this is the one way so far to actually make machine to machine and AI agentic payments work at scale. And
Mm.
this is where the entire digital world is going. So
Mm.
we have a bunch of infrastructure that doesn't work for that use case. there was x402 where we started the conversation, which is designed for certain things, has grain gate volume. But when we actually look at a bunch of the commercial use cases we're talking about, at this point in time, when we look at what we're offering, benefit-wise, and how are we doing win rate in the conversations we're having, we're feeling very confident.
And maybe even in your spirit of working with creators and maybe retailers, you're crowdfunding with a platform called Dealmaker. Is that sort of is that how? Yeah, touch on that. Is that in line just purely with the champion?
So that's one of the partners that we're looking at, and they've got a very, very good platform and a good team, and they recently did a great tie-up with CIBC Innovation Banking. So we'll like Dealmaker, but definitively because we've gone out with Veeeu and because we're serving the creator community and trying to make a big change in how streaming works, so that creators, and there are 100 million creators in that big middle, right?
Wow.
When we look at it, we're like, they're not getting a fair deal. They don't have as much control as they should, and they don't have as much money as they should have. It comes down to something that simple. So for that side of the business, it only makes sense to go do a retail crowdfunding raise. So there'll be more details on that will come out over the next couple of months.
Lovely. I mean, that's helpful to know. And then leveling up on the raises, leveling up with the marketing. That's all great. I mean, how do I guess we as 3D shareholders, but also 3D themselves, benefit? And how has 3D's role changed since they were in the research phase? So obviously it's very different times now. So how's their role changed?
So the 3D team has always been there and present, right, throughout all this, good times, bad times, and they would weigh in wherever it was helpful. Whether it was during the time of doing the research and that end, or getting POCs and partners put together. Now that we're getting into a real commercial stage, a lot of collaboration, both on go-to-market as well as how we think about capital formation.
Okay. And those notes that they hold, we've said before, they're valued at $1, which would be sort of 280 million on each fixed TDN. As these transaction volume ramps up, word spreads, what are the sort of royalty flows to 3D, but then just the ordinary TDN holders?
So all of it is done on exactly the same internet native payment rails. Which means as payment flow from customer to customer to supply chain and we're getting paid, all of that then flows backwards using exactly the same technology to royalty holders like 3D.
And that's totally different to the equity side, isn't it? So because obviously you've had these partners, and
there's the equity portion, but then there are these USD TDN royalty certificates,
which is better.
That becomes like a portion of revenue share. And everything you've been hearing, especially when going back to the beginning of the conversation, when we were talking about all those things we had to build up, an asset management portal. I mean, we've got to, on top of that, put an AI agent on top with natural language interface so that a human being can make sense of just the number of transactions and what's going on. The bank gateway, all of these products and pieces of infrastructure are even needed on the back end for investors like 3D. Because it doesn't help at all, as an example, to, let's say, send TDN across, and then the holder's like, okay, well, what do I do with this? So in solving our customer's problem, we also solve our own internal problems as well as our investors' needs too.
That's a good point.
Everyone is going to be using the same set of products.
That's really, really, really cool. And it's really cool how people can be getting involved at a raise, but also be benefiting from the revenue share. So that's awesome. And then sort of the go-to-market element that we've been touching on, with the TAPP wallet, is there like maybe an authenticator app?
So you don't necessarily need an app. Like your TAPP wallet is secure in the cloud, and if you go link yourself to like the Veeeu website or wherever else, and you just use whatever email you've got with the wallet, you can do that. But for iOS and Android, we have a TAPP Authenticator app, and it does three things. The first thing it does is if you encounter somewhere there's a TAPP experience to gain access or to pay, with the TAPP Authenticator app, you can make that secure link just with a click from the app. So it's just much faster. And you remove a few steps by having to get a one-time code sent to your email. The second thing the Authenticator app does is you can see your balance and you can see all your assets like movie passes or whatever else you have. And then the third thing it allows you to do is you can transfer funds peer-to-peer instantly to anyone by email.
Wow.
And then the final thing is you can also transfer any other asset you have instantly to anyone by email.
Yeah.
So
Email, the new blockchain. Yeah.
it doesn't have a ton of features, 3 or 4, but just very, very powerful. And again, designed to address our customer needs.
Mm-hmm. No, no, that's really, really helpful. It sounds like a very seamless. We've been touching on it constantly. It's a very seamless, easy to set up, but even seamless in using, but also transferring things that are being purchased, which is amazing. I mean, we even touched on the banking stuff quite early on. Um, so that banking gateway lets customers move, I guess, USD TDN between across banks and even to non-banks like Revolut and Wise, PayPal.
Sorry?
Moving sort of TDN across as well, like USD TDN, which I presume is
So
also.
basically what ends up happening is the bank gateway
Yeah,
allows you to transfer from USD TDN to US dollar or other currency funds that then go into your account.
yeah, it's very, very simple. And how quickly do funds hit the account if you're working with those banks and then it comes across
It
into.
depends on which bank and what kind of route you're doing.
Yeah,
Typically same day, next day.
same day, next day. That's very helpful to know. And you said not everyone needs to be on the network to for it to work because you've got so many partners and they're kind of in the ecosystem even if they don't realize they're not. How do you create value when maybe they're only on one side of it?
I don't quite understand the question.
Uh, Say on the creator side or the API provider has adopted, TAP, but then the end users on the more traditional side.
Well, we do have use cases like that. We have some customers where they've adopted TAP on their back end
Mm,
and they're using traditional payment rails and subscription on their front end.
mm,
It's entirely up to the customer. So
yeah,
they can use the TAP front end too if they want. They can use it in addition to everything else they're doing. They
mm,
can replace, they cannot use it. It's really a choose your own adventure.
yeah,
On our end, we're entirely agnostic.
mm,
We've got some use cases like Veeeu where it's TAP from front to back, from the consumer to the platform to the AIs to the supply chain, all the way back to the bank gateway.
yeah.
And then there's other customers where they've just picked one leg or two of that, and then everything else is, how they're usually doing business.
Yeah, no, very, very simple. And then just quickly now closing out with what everyone likes to hear about. What are the catalysts in your mind? Maybe top three near catalysts.
I would say that the big events that are kind of coming out for the next 90 days is we want to be able to power up several thousands of videos,
Mm,
probably several hundred to 1,000 onto the Veeeu platform, and then 10 times that on the business to business cloud side,
yeah,
on the AI end. And we want to make sure that, especially during this period, we get our first dozen or so AI use cases and reference cases working really well.
yeah,
So as opposed to worrying about, trying to scale out too quickly, is get those going, get them working, get all the
mm,
features and the performance and everything flowing very, very smoothly. And then with those two milestones under our belt, that then puts us in good stead to go and do the next phase of scaling.
mhm,
And then obviously during this time, our other big focuses, we're starting our seed round fundraising roadshow
mhm.
this week. And we are also getting ready for a larger retail crowdfund
Yeah, yeah, that's
in the
helpful.
US.
Helpful to
Yeah.
know. And also because you're focusing on the AI, cloud to cloud side, immediately made me think of your partners at Hypercycle. Is that where you're heading with some of those? You're working with them on some of those AI to AI transactions?
Not really.
Hmm.
It's two different approaches, quite complementary. I think if you looked at electric vehicles, there was an organization called A Better Place.
Hmm.
And so what A Better Place did is they just built out a lot of EV infrastructure. And then there was another company called Tesla who went and built cars. And as car owners
Mm.
congregated in certain locations, they started building out the EV infrastructure just in that place for the most urgent things. And it
Yes.
organically grew from there. We are more of the second. So for our AI customers, we're there to solve their problem and
Mm.
add more revenue and more customers to them right in that moment.
Yeah.
And we're not as worried about what are all the other potentially much needed, sort of governance, reputation, and how is it all going to flow together in an internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get there when we get there. But in the meantime, we just want to make sure that we're adding value for those first 15 or 20. They have a great product
Yeah. Yeah.
experience. They make money, we make money, and we'll expand from there. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to, like you're saying with the onboarding, in batches so that you can really make sure everyone has an exceptional experience rather than maybe going to all of their clients and people who are using their stuff to then use TAPP so soon, but that could be an angle in the future. Now expanding away from 90 days, just quickly, maybe 1 to 2 years, and then maybe even do 3 to 5 if you like.
Oh, 1 to 2 years. You know what? It has been 5 years. I would love to take a short vacation
Yes.
in the next.
Okay, yeah. So vacation in 1 to 2 years, and then 3 to 5, you go absolutely crazy, and you basically are the standard for streaming, micropayments. I mean, what would volume look like to you at that point? Is it would you consider even an IPO or an acquisition at that point? I mean, that's quite far out, but still have to ask the question.
Yeah, quite far out
Mm,
and way too early to
mm,
worry about or think about those things. You want
yeah,
to be, we want to and are doing the things now to make sure that when we get to a year from now or 2 years from now or 5 years from now, we've made the right moves so that those kind of options are realistic.
mm,
But in terms of what will actually happen or who might it be, it's too early.
yeah, yeah. And then for you, bringing it back down to today, what's your sort of favorite use case that maybe went live more so in the last 12 months rather than maybe prior to that?
There has been a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
super proud of the team for all the pieces that they built and how our
Mm.
customers are using them, and very grateful to our champion customers who have been pushing and being along with us for this ride. So I'd give a
Mm.
huge thank you to them. There have been a lot, so
Yeah.
I will simply reply with obviously the nice thing was the most immediate thing that happened
Mm.
over the last 72 hours was, like I said, we ended up with
Mm.
a 40-50x increase in
Mm.
the internet native payment transaction volume. So we went from
Mm.
very small to larger. But
Awesome.
what it did show to us from a technical validation and from a banking and commercial integration validation
Mm.
that the pipes we had built, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that
It,
something would you say that surprised you, just the things that are coming together so quickly now?
it's always, yeah, it is a little surprising at how quickly it's accelerating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then lastly, I mean, how you said, you touched on that journey, and it's been a journey in pain and struggles, but also success. Where do you want to tell, speaking to sort of 3D holders who have been there since the beginning, how would you describe what do you want people to know about where you were, where you started, and where you are today since Sheldon first invested in the company?
Uh, yeah, what a crazy journey.
Mm,
We literally had to build 6 new layers of infrastructure and technology and products
mm,
from the ground up, from core research, all the way up. And that takes some years. You got to remember that, even when AI came out, that where, it had a coming out party and that suddenly became a thing.
yeah.
Remember that Jeff Hinton worked in obscurity for years,
Mm,
years,
yeah.
and no one knew and no one cared. And then suddenly they did. So it is very nice to be in this moment where we're crossing the start line and all of that building and proving and trials
Mm,
and the ton of failures. And obviously there will be more of this, coming up ahead. But now we're truly crossing the start line.
mm,
The products are there, the customers are there, the demonstrated value is there.
yeah.
It's getting into delivery and execution. And things are starting to get very fun in a very different way.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like the fun part has really started. Obviously, sometimes people enjoy the grind, but a lot of the grind, I'm not saying there's not any grinding left to do, but it sounds like you're entering into more of a fun phase and getting out there, which is always the enjoyable bit when you've got something that you can really,
Yeah,
you know, be so happy about.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Wonderful.
thank you very much, Hassan,
Thank you
and
so
speak
much.
to you soon. Yeah, cheers.